What's good, Lakers family, and welcome back to another episode of the Lakers Corner, where we talk all things Lakers. And just yesterday, we seen the Lakers draft Adou Thiero with the 36th pick. They actually traded up to get him. First, they traded their 55th pick and cash to the Chicago Bulls to acquire the 45th pick, and then they traded the 45th pick and cash to Minnesota to get a 36th pick, and that's where they took Adou. And here today, we got the one and only Stone Hansen from the Upside Swing podcast, man, aka our draft expert, man. He knows anything and everything about all these draft E's coming in, whether you played in college, whether you played overseas. Stone knows about you. So we are here today with Stone to learn a little bit more about Adu. But my boy Stone, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to hopefully, shine a little light on who Adu is for Laker fans that aren't really familiar. And I think that'll be a good discussion.
Facts, facts. That's exactly what we're going to do in this video today. We're just going to shine some light on, the player that Adu is for those that aren't maybe as well versed in the college game as Stone. We're going to talk about his game on both ends. Give a quick, player comparison of, who we think his comp is, and then we'll finish off here by talking about how we believe his fit is going to be on this team and just kind of what we can expect here from this first year. But Stone, let me go ahead and hand it over to you. I'll let you decide whether you want to start on the offensive end or the defensive end. Heard a little bit of your pod, so I think you might start on the defensive end. But talk to me about what you feel about Adu's game. You let me know if you want to start on the offensive end or defensive end.
Yeah. We'll save the defense for last. We'll go with offense first.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Adu offensively, it starts with the fact that he's operating as a slasher and a driver because the shot just isn't there right now. I don't think the touch is very good outside of the paint, and the indicators, from mid range are up and down. Like there's flashes of he's able to hit floaters. He can hit like some open jumpers if he's around there, but typically speaking, Adu is operating all the way towards the rim, and that's because he's got top tier athleticism. He can get himself to the rim. He's an automatic paint touch, and he can bully his way there. He's extremely strong. I believe he has a 7-foot wingspan. He's like 6'6". So, plus 6-inch wingspan, and he's ambidextrous at the rim. He could finish with either arm and hand and go from either side of the rim. He'll go to the right side or the left side of the rim with either hand. And I think that versatility as a finisher really opens up a lot of things for him. He's an insane, like 1 foot and 2 foot leaper. He can raise up for dunks on 1 or 2 feet. And I think that the versatility as a finisher is really important, considering the fact that he's, not operating a whole lot outside of the paint as a shooter or a play finisher. He's a really good cutter, which is obviously helpful for the Lakers with the ball in the hands of great passers like LeBron and Luka. He is good at operating within space, so he knows when to time his cuts, when to clear out of the paint. He's not clogging things up as a driver for other drivers. And I think that's really important. He has the micro skills that allow him to be someone that operates almost exclusively in the paint. And that's important because you sort of need those if you're going to be doing that in today's NBA. I think the thing that stops Adu from like full transparency, I think I had him 28th on my big board. And there are people that I respect quite highly, their opinions, that had him lottery and even higher. Like some people had him 10, 12. And people whose opinions I highly respect. I didn't get there because I think for me the handle is somewhat problematic for me. Like I don't think he has a ton of counters when it comes to help defense getting in there. If he's a driver and help defense is able to peel away, he's strong enough to draw fouls and get himself to the line at times, but he's not advanced enough as a ball handler to be able to get past them and then go for an uncontested finish. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that he'll have to work on, apart from the shot, to really maximize himself as a driver. I could get into more, but I'll
Yeah.
let you
Yeah,
give
no,
your thoughts.
No, 100%. And I appreciate, those initial thoughts. And I mean, you talked about the offensive end, right? 15 points per game, 2 assists, 5.8 rebounds per game. Two of those were offensive. Shot 54% from the field, disgusting 26% from the 3 point line in the 27 games. Led Arkansas, not only made field goals, but also made free throws and free throw attempts, which shows me exactly what you were mentioning, right? He's an aggressive slasher. He gets to the hoop. He, finishes over people, through people. He's a very, strong slasher type player. But then that kind of leads me to kind of one of his weaknesses, and one of my biggest problems with them, to be honest with you, is just it's the lack of shooting. Right? It's a lack of shooting in a shooters league, and I'm not even talking about like you need to be like Stephen Curry and pulling from the parking lot, but it's the same thing I said when Ben Simmons got drafted. You could actually go back, and I was on Clutch Talk at the time, but when Ben Simmons got drafted, like I was like, okay, I get it. He's like the 6'9" point guard. But if you run a pick and roll with him and Joel Embiid and he can't shoot, you just double Joel Embiid and the whole play blown up because he can't shoot. And it's not even the fact that he can't shoot like Stephen Curry. It's the fact that he can't even shoot to where he doesn't even believe in his own jumper. And if you don't believe in your own jumper, the defense, they're not going to believe in it as well. So I say that to say, about Adou, shot 68% from the free throw line. Not a great 3 point shooter, as we've seen. Shot 25% from the 3 point line this last season. So he doesn't really, stretch the floor as much. So that's where, my problems with him come. And then also, he's known to be a defender, but you tell me, you do much better than I do, but I don't think he's such a good defender to where his defense will keep him in the league for the rest of his career, to where like, we can just not worry about the offense because the defense is that great. So to me, I'm kind of a little bit indifferent about this pick. There's the intangibles, like you mentioned, being 6'6" with a 7 foot wingspan, athletic and all this and all that, and he's strong, but it's like you mentioned, he can't put the ball on the floor that well, can't really play make, create for others, can't create for himself like that. Not the greatest catch and shoot shooter. He's a beast inside and beast at finishing at the rim. But is there any worries that you have in that, bringing in a non-shooter to this team? Or I guess, do you have any thoughts on just some of the thoughts I just spilled out here?
Yeah. I mean, so I would agree, obviously, with the handle issue that I brought up. Like, I think that there's limitations there as a ball handler, but he's not so poor as a ball handler. Like, he can't straight line drive and get himself to the rim. He's definitely not creating for others. Like, he's not somebody that is facilitating, or even like as a connective guy, he's not really much of a connective passer. Um, what I like about Adou as a slasher and play finisher is that he's not premeditated. He doesn't pick a route and is like, I'm going to go with this route regardless of what happens with the defense. He's very reactive. He can adjust his drives on the fly, and I think that's really important. What stands out to me most with Adou as this slasher is that he's really in this. I've already seen, the Vando comparisons from Lakers fans inevitably as a athletic guy who can't shoot. But I think the big separator here, apart from a dude just being a different tier of athlete than Vando, and Vando's already a strong athlete in his own right, but is the fact that he doesn't he can put the ball on the ground, but he doesn't need a runway to get downhill. Like, he's very good at operating within tight spaces. If someone pushes up on him and pressures him, he's great at recognizing foot angles and the way that defenders are positioned to where he can get himself by that defender, despite not being like overly complex as a ball handler. And that people will push out on him because when he does have that runway, it's really hard to stop him when he's at top speed. But I think it allows him to be a little bit more of a floor spacer despite not having the shot, which is interesting because like with Vando per se, and this is not, they're very different players. It's not comparing necessarily apples to apples here, but that Vando's not somebody he has to be spoon fed, right? Like, he has to be wide open to be able to get a shot off. And that's not the case with Thiero. Like, Thiero can create within tight spaces, can handle enough to get himself to the rim. And I think that's an important distinction there. When you talk about the defense, I think Thiero's a really, really good containment defender. He's really good at keeping people in front of him, specifically more wings. With guards, they're too often for me to feel comfortable putting him on guards that he got blown by, like against quicker and burstier guys. But against a lot of strength-based creators, or obviously Luke isn't on our team, but like in practice or something, I think Adou will be guarding him a lot because he's obviously more strength based, not speed based. And I think uh, against those kinds of players like your Cades, like your Tatums, who's obviously not healthy right now, but I think Adou will be a really strong containment defender in front of those guys. Um, the the guards, I don't think he's super switchable because I think against a lot of quicker guards, it's going to be more problematic. He is really strong. He's got a long wingspan. He could probably guard more threes and fours than ones or twos, and obviously fives. He's just not to that level. But I think a lot of threes and fours primarily. He can keep guys in front of him on the perimeter. He can defend post ups against guys that are that size because he is pretty strong. He's got a strong lower body too. The defensive playmaking, the chops are there, like the athleticism to be able to go to one side of the court from the other side of the court and pick off a pass in the passing lane. Like it's there for him. I don't think he was asked to do that too much under Calipari. So, and that's typically just not something that a lot of guys do under Calipari. So I think the outcomes are there for him to be this sort of defensive havoc maker and playmaker and roamer that he just didn't play a role in. But I think he's capable of. There's some low man rotation stuff where he at times can be the low man and be the weak side rim protector because of his strength and length. And I think that's important too. There's versatility in what he can do defensively, which is interesting. I don't think he's like this necessarily locked down. You put him on a player, he's getting steals at the point of attack all the time. But I think he is someone that you can put against some of the best strength-based perimeter guys, and he can help contain them. And he's a body that the Lakers just don't have in terms of athletic defenders on the perimeter. So I like what he brings to this Lakers team specifically in that department.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a great transition. We're going to get to defense right now, but before we get to defense, let's just put a quick cap on the offensive end. So, I mean, I think we know he's going to be a beast inside. He's going to he finished at the rim last year at 63% at the rim, had 45 dunks in 27 games. He likes to operate going downhill. He's a slasher. I think he's going to be a good spark plug off the bench offensively. Get out of transition, get some easy buckets, just provide high energy, just like slashers type stuff. And then, like I said, I do think he'll help us on the offensive glass because we got out rebounded a whole lot last year on the offensive glass. So that's on that. But I just do have my doubts and concerns with the shooting ability. But that's something that he can work on. At least it's not something that he's stuck with. He can work on. But to transition to the defense, I know you touched on that a little bit. I don't know if you want to get into that a little bit more. I mean, this is where I think he'll have his biggest impact, right? Like this is where we're going to be like, all right, well, here is what Adou is here for. Him having the 7-foot wingspan, having elite athleticism, and being able to guard, multiple positions. Like I think that that's going to be really good for the Lakers, especially because we have Luka, right? And as much as people are saying Luka's in shape and all this and all that about Luka, which I believe he is, and I really do think that this is going to be his best, like getting into shape off season because he's never had a LeBron James next to him to tell him how to get in shape and how to take care of your body. But now he does. So I do think that. But even with all that being said, I don't think Luka Doncic is going to be out there, clamping people up. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when you have players like Luka Doncic, it's similar to what I used to say about Stephen Curry when he was on the Warriors and like first coming up. He was a defensive liability, but they were able to hide him with Clay, with Dre, with the rest of the team. They were able to hide Curry. And I'm hoping with a player like Adou, maybe when Adou and Luka are out there together at times, we can hide Luka because Adou can go ahead and pick up, that opposing point guard or maybe that opposing wing. I know you said Adou isn't the greatest against point guards, but maybe that opposing wing. He did average 0.7 blocks last year and then 1.6 steals. So I don't know if you want to touch on any of that and just talk a little bit to me about the defensive end and what you see for Adou here on the Lakers.
Yeah, I think I touched on a bit, but to expand a little bit more, I think that uh, he's not the lockdown guy that like you're coming in and you're throwing on the team's best player and you're expecting him to just not he's not a stopper, right, like he's
Mhm.
not like this Kawhi level guy, and I don't think those outcomes exist for him. Like I don't necessarily believe he can get to that point, but I do think he can be really impactful in keeping guys contained, which is something Lakers just severely lack, right? Like we have Vando, who is fine against wings, but he can get out strengthed at times. And we have Finney Smith, um, who's solid defender. I don't think he's great, and I think Adou can be that level of perimeter defender, similar to like a Finney Smith, where he's um, taking on a lot of strength based guys and doing a very good job at that. But I don't think he's in the way that Finney Smith is too. Like along those lines, I don't think either of them are like necessarily defensive playmakers that are getting tons of steals or blocks. But they're really good at containing the guy in front of them, and I think that's what Adou is. But I do think Adou can be used in a way that Finney Smith can't, with the athleticism, where you can put him in these roamer situations. You could put him as this low man guy, and I think he can be capable of doing this defensive playmaking stuff that away from the ball that you don't really see with Finney Smith anymore at this stage of his career. So I think that is really interesting, and just gives something the Lakers. It gives the Lakers something that they just don't have right now. Um, they have Vando to be that guy, and Vando's energy I think is contagious at times for the Lakers, and adding another player that has that similar level of motor, which Adu has. Like he's extremely high motor. He plays extremely hard the entire game. Whenever he's on the court, like he's there just to. And you saw Arkansas, for people that did watch, like his teammates would feed off of that energy. Like he'd really hustle to get down for a rotation, or because he's so long and strong, like he's pretty good in recovery defense. I did mention he got blown by guards, but there are times where he gets blown by, but he makes that up in 2 or 3 steps, that ground coverage, and can get a block from like behind. So there's that level of energy and willingness to continue keeping himself in plays that I think the Lakers need as well, where they don't have a whole lot of that outside of Vando. So I think that level of defensive oomph that they don't have right now is just another added layer of complexity that they can throw in there in different situations. And I think the Lakers, we talk about the center, and obviously that's the gaping hole that needs to be fixed this offseason. But apart from that, I think perimeter defense is like the second biggest need for them. And I think just collecting these guys that can be even, capable of keeping these guys in front of them and be these containment guys um, is really important, because they don't have a lot of that, especially for someone that doesn't have to be as one-sided as Vando on the offensive end. Because like I said, I think he can get himself to the rim more. I think he can operate in tight spaces. He has better hands than Vando. Like there's all these things that I think just make him a better offensive prospect than Vando ever was. And I think that having a guy that can play both ends is important for the Lakers when they have so many one-way players.
Absolutely. And before you get to the player comparisons, I do think it's funny that you said I do, and his name's Adu.
I do,
So
yeah.
it was funny. I wish I had the little drum roll effect when he said I do. But anyway, Stone, you talked about Vando. You talked about some other players that are already in the league. Give us maybe one or two player comps that you see here with our guy Adu.
Yeah, it is. I'm more on the spot here because I've not thought about this. I'm not typically someone that likes to do player comps, just because situations can be so different,
Absolutely.
rosters and coaching staffs.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe a player, and this might not be the most exciting player comp for some people, but if you actually watch the Hornets, I think interesting. It's like a Josh Green, where these guys are uber athletes and defensively can do stuff. But I think even then, like Adu's just much better at creating more for himself with the ball as a tight space operator. So it's
I
um,
like that.
but just to throw something in the same ballpark of a similar realm of athlete, like I think Josh Green would be someone that's interesting. I'm trying to think of others. It's difficult on the spot here, but maybe that's someone that can help give a little clarification to some people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, I'm from what I've seen here with Adu, I'm thinking a lot of Stanley Johnson, some Jay Crowder. I seen Peyton Watson. A lot of people talked about the player comp is, Peyton Watson, Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Just I think they're talking about those just raw athletes, so really excel on the defensive end and just have a little bit of like limitations on the offensive end. But to your point and what you're saying, Adu, I would say is from what I've seen is offensively more offensively gifted than maybe of all those guys that I just listed. And they might be on the same level defensively. But okay, all right. Well, Stone. So then let's finish off with this, brother. Let's finish off with just the fit on the Lakers. You can go to the defensive end if you want. You go to the offensive. You could just talk about in general. Talk to me about his fit on the Lakers, and then what kind of what are some things you expect, and then just let's wrap it up here with some of your final thoughts. And then I'll go ahead and I'll proceed you after that.
Yeah, I think with the fit on the Lakers, I like it. I like him. This is to me like one of the most ideal fits in the draft with Adu here because um, they need this level of athleticism that they don't have on the perimeter on both ends. To be honest, like they just don't have this sort of athlete on either end. Um, he's explosive off of one or two. I think that he can be a lob threat in a way that is not as a pick and roll guy, but like more of a backdoor cutter and things of that nature. Um, the Lakers don't have a ton of these high level cutters. I don't think you can use him in ways where he's not your third ball handler, but if you have a tilted defense, like Reeves has now been someone that can bend a defense a bit over time. He's developed that sort of skill set. LeBron and Luka obviously can collapse and bend defenses at their will. And when you do that, I think it creates a lot of opportunistic ability for Adu to have a runway to get to the rim, which is when he's at his best, and he can really draw free throws. He had an insane free throw rate. I forget it off the top of my head, but he had a really high free throw rate at the his previous season here at Arkansas, and then he doesn't have to have that though. Like if these guys are throwing it to him and the defense recovers out to him on the perimeter, um, Adu's great at recognizing the way they're coming at him, the angle and direction they're coming at him, and he can still get by them on closeouts and really attack and rip through closeouts super hard. So I think it's just a constant slashing threat offensively that the Lakers don't have. And that's really interesting to me. And obviously, I touched on defense; like they just don't have this level of athlete, um, and someone with this motor apart from Vando, but Adu's just much stronger. So it allows him to, I think, guard a lot of these strength based guys with less worry. The other thing I would add too is, and it'll probably go one ear and out the other with a lot of Lakers fans, but I do think it's important is this is the 36th pick. Like Laker fans tend to hold on to whatever pick. It doesn't matter if it's the first pick, the 15th pick, or the 50th pick. Like Laker fans hold their breath for every pick. Second round picks are not meant to be superstars. Like you're hoping this is an NBA player, not a multi-time All Star. And I think expectations need to be set for someone picked 36. Like I think it was a good pick. I think the very highest outcomes for Adu exist as someone that's maybe an all defensive guy, maybe can crack an All Star game or two. Like I think that exists for him if he says like 100th percentile outcome, like the very best version of Adou Thiero is that. But I wouldn't put that expectation of him hitting that, right? Like most prospects do not hit that. So, especially someone that's the 36th pick in the second round, you're hoping to get NBA players, and I think that's what NBA or Laker fans should hope for. And if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out because that most second round picks don't, to be honest. And I'm not saying Adu won't. I'm not saying definitively one way or the other he'll be this or that. But I think the expectation of Laker fans being like he has to be this and he's a disappointment if he doesn't reach this level. It's a second round pick. most players there are just, you know, you're hoping that they be something and can fit in your rotation. And if they don't, it's not the end of the world. You didn't spend top 20 capital on that player, and I think that's important to remember. So that's my little
Absolutely.
soapbox with the 36th pick. But I
Love it.
think Adu can be important for the Lakers, and I think he's got a real shot this year to crack the rotation as a rookie.
I love it. I love it, bro. I mean, for as far as some closing thoughts for me, like the fit on the Lakers. I mean, I mentioned defensively. I do think he could be a glue guy. You know, that 7 foot wingspan, the elite athleticism, can guard multiple positions. He'll help us when we have to switch heavy, when we do switch heavy schemes. He'll be that spark plug off the bench with his just strong finishes at the rim. He's always he's crashing the board. Offensively, I do think is we're gonna have to see how that works. I love what you said about him being a lob threat, but not as much as a pick and roll lob threat, more of like a backdoor cut lob threat. And OKC did that so much this year when they did the two bigs pick and roll, and then like Hartenstein would cut backdoor and they'd get the lob every single time. So I love that. And then as far as like what I expect, my expectations are to see him come off the bench with a lot of hustle, bring the energy, be that spark plug, crash the glass. But one thing I really do want to see is I want to see the jumper progressing. I really, really do want to see the jumper progressing because I've said this so many times, and I hate to bring up Ben Simmons again, but like I Ben Simmons did not develop a jumper, and I play basketball myself. There is no reason somebody should not be developing a jumper. It is simply repetition. If you are not developing a jumper, it is because you are not getting enough shots up and you're not working on your game. So I really want to make sure that is a step that a dude takes. I can accept the not being a real shooting threat, maybe first or second year in the league, but I definitely want to see that evolve as he goes on. But I think this is a good place for us to go ahead and wrap it up here. Stone, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule, man. And everybody, make sure you guys go follow Stone. Make sure you guys go show some love to Stone because I was just talking to Stone before we were recording, and he's been up for like 50 hours, y'all. Like he had to do a whole bunch of stuff for the draft. He had to do a whole bunch of stuff for the Upside Swing podcast because they've been dropping mock drafts. They've been doing mock drafts. So just make sure you guys go show some love to Stone for taking his time here and educate us on Adou. But Stone, is there any last words to say before we want to sign out here?
No, I mean, just thanks for having me. This is the first podcast I've done since Adou's been drafted, and I think it's been good to get more of my thoughts out there. So thanks for giving me a platform to do so. I appreciate the shout out, and if anyone is interested in the draft and Lakers content throughout the season, I'm less of a Lakers content creator as much as John here is, but I'm primarily draft centric, but there's some Lakers stuff sprinkled in throughout the season. So, yeah, I appreciate you having me, and but I'll be cranking out 2026 stuff, which I think Lakers fans should be tuned into because we have our own pick next year in the first round. So, and it's going to be a stat class. So, if that interests you, you could follow me, and if not, that's cool too. But thanks for listening, and hopefully people enjoyed this.
Yes, sir, man. All right, Lakers Nation, we out of here, man. Peace.